29th meeting. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Under the mayor's report, I'm going to ask Mr. Osborne to give an update on the utility bills. Mr. Osborne?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. As we talked about last meeting, we've been trying to notify all of our customers that are behind on their utility bills. And at this point in time, we have sent them their bill, a past due notice, a letter, 2 phone calls. So they've been notified 4 or 5 times each of them. Currently, we have roughly 200 who have either paid in full or they've paid what their payment plan was. So tomorrow's the deadline. I'm sure Danetta and Tina will be busy, but customer service. But as of right now, we have 200 people that have complied with what we asked out of the 500.
Are there any questions for Mr. Osborne?
One thing I would like to point out, Mayor, is I want the public to know if they can't make the payment plan that was sent to them, please call City Hall and talk with Danetta or customer service. We will work with them. I mean, we're not eager to cut people off, and I'm sure other utilities aren't either. So if they can't pay if it's $50 a month, if they can't pay that, if they got to pay 30, just have them call and please make arrangements, because Monday is when the cutoffs will begin.
Jim, did you say 200 people out of 500 have responded?
Yes, I'm roughly 200.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Were there other questions? Thank you, Mr. Osborne.
Yes, sir.
I want to announce that the leaf pickup in the city will start November the 30th. And folks can look on our website and see what areas of town they'll start in and how they'll progress throughout the next few weeks. November the 30th, leaf pickup will begin. If you notice Mr. Albritton's report yesterday for the month of October, I think you noticed that we were able to get a lot of paving done. A lot of streets were resurfaced, and Mr. Albritton, do you have any comment on that? Okay. Well, then there were several streets that were paved, I think 4 or 5 miles. So good job on that. Also want to remind everyone that as we enter the holiday season, our meeting schedule will change.
I just wanted to say, Mr. Mayor, that we started milling 16th between Main and 5 Points today, so that should be done in the next few days.
Okay, thank you. Our meeting schedule will change because of the holidays. The next meeting will be on Tuesday the 24th instead of the Thursday being Thanksgiving. And then the one meeting in December will be December the 10th. So please mark your calendars accordingly. The next item I wanted us to discuss is the contract renewal for our sanitation. I'll just say up front that right now the recycling issue will be on hold until a decision is made on whether or not we want to renew our sanitation contract, because Republic, that's a condition of the recycling, is they can't afford to implement the recycling on a 1-year basis if we're not going to renew. So you may, I'll throw that open for discussion. If you'd like, whatever your wishes are on that, if you would like to instruct me to begin a negotiation process with Republic and bring that back to the next meeting along with the first reading of the recycling, we can do that. If you aren't interested in renewing the contract at this time, then recycling will be put on hold. So I'll open the floor for comments on that. Ms. Eber?
I'd like to say that there is a lot of enthusiasm for recycling in our community right now. And my concern about postponing this would be that we might lose that momentum and enthusiasm. So my personal feeling is to move forward with this as quickly as we can.
Thank you. Other comments? Someone else raise their hand?
I completely agree. This is Rose Elder. I completely agree with Pat. I think it's something we need to do sooner than later. And I think we have a good opportunity here that we need to move forward with.
This is Dr. Dan. I would move that we give you permission to begin negotiation for extending the contract to Republic for waste management in Murray, Kentucky.
All right, Dr. Miller made a motion that we pursue negotiations with Republic in renewing the contract. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's made and second.
Mayor,
There are lots of questions about recycling, I understand. And most of those questions are going to deal with the actual signing up. You know, when do they sign up? How do they sign up? Is there a minimum length of time they have to sign up? All those questions will be answered once the decision is made to renew the contract. And then we can move forward with that. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion,
hey,
please.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor,
Dr. Young?
I just have a comment that I thought, I don't know, in our discussion, you said that the possibility existed that their rates would down for their pickup if we decided to renew with them. I thought that was a really a good move on their part. Is that true? Did not hear that from you? That their rates go down on their garbage pickup on the next contract?
Yes, sir.
Jim, did you hear that?
In the initial conversations with Mr. Albrighton, they indicated that the rates would go down. I think that'll be part of that negotiation process, is to just see where we can get those rates. Okay?
Good.
All in favor, please raise your hand. I can see that better than I can hear you. Thank you very much. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We're now ready for ordinance 2020-1803. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance number 2020-1803, second reading. An ordinance enacting a supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Murray, Kentucky.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. You want to just brief folks on what this one's about?
Yes, sir. As the council's aware, we do this about 4 times a year. This simply codifies the ordinances that you passed and puts them on. So it's more housekeeping.
I hear a motion on this ordinance.
So moved.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion or questions? Anyone? If not, this is the second reading and we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Boland,
Yes.
Ms. Cherry,
Yes.
Ms. Elder,
Yes.
Mr. Hudspeth? Is that a yes, Mr. Hudspeth? You're muted. Okay. Mr. McChristian?
Yeah.
Dr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Roberts?
Yeah.
Ms. Rouse?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes,
Dr. Streeter?
Yes.
Dr. Young?
Yes.
Are there any opposed? The ordinance passes. We're ready for ordinance 2020-1804, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 2020-1804, second reading. An ordinance amending City of Murray Code of Ordinances, Chapter 158, Property Maintenance Code, specifically to amend the language contained in various sections of the International Property Maintenance Code as amended by this ordinance, and more particularly referenced in 158.02, additions, insertions, and changes, and to include new sections addressing property public nuisances, specifically 158.10, 158.11, 158.12, 158.13, 158.14, 158.15, and 158.16, and to amend 158.99 penalty to ensure compliance with other ordinances. In the event of a conflict between the International Property Maintenance Code and this ordinance shall prevail.
Mr. Osborne, you want any comments on this ordinance?
Sure, Mayor. As we talked the last time, our property maintenance code adopted the International Property Maintenance Code. It really didn't spell out a lot of the definitions. So Warren's office went through and put definitions for us. They've created a property nuisance, which we think will close a lot of loopholes that a lot of people have got complaints over the past 2 years. So that's the primary reason for this.
Do I have a motion on this ordinance?
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Since this is the second reading, I will open it up for any questions. Ms. Seaver?
yes, sir. I think this is a really good move, to be more specific and informative about what it can and cannot be done within the city limits. How will we get the word out to our residents what is acceptable and what's not before they're in violation? I guess my concern is we don't want to just be caught up in a situation where they didn't know. So is there a plan to publicize this?
We'll get the word receiver, but 99% of folks that know that violation right now, because we've taken the code enforcement officer has been to the register. So, but we will. I'll get, and maybe he can publish somewhere in his article, or maybe he can publish. The homes we're particularly talking about, they're going to know who they are.
Okay.
Mr. Seaver? Mr. Streeter?
Yeah, I have sort of the same concern that Pat has. I noticed that in section 158.13A, it talks about leaves as being some of the litter, that if they're in gutters, that's a fine. And if you just drive around Murray, I drove around Gatesboro Circle yesterday, and there would be about 3 houses that would be in violation.
Right.
Because they're piling their leaves in the gutter, not on their lawns. And so obviously they either don't know what the about this ordinance, or they're just ignoring it. I'm not sure which.
Well, the police department and the code enforcement officer they'll use common sense like they do with the state laws that they're enforcing now. They're going to let people know if they're in violation. It's not going to be a penalty right away. They're going to give them time to get things cleaned up. And I can't imagine, Dr. Streeter, that we go and make them clean out their gutters. So,
Okay.
yeah. think it's like a lot of the laws that are on Kentucky's books that, you know, if you have to enforce it, it's there, but it's not something we'd be looking to do.
Thank you, Jim.
This ordinance quite obviously is an effort for us to be able to clean up some areas that technically they are not in violation, I'm told. And although many of them are eyesores and health hazards and things like this. So this is an effort to try to allow us to put a little bit more teeth into some of these areas. So this is second reading. We'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Bell? Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Boland?
Yes.
Ms. Cherry?
Yes.
Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Hudspeth? Mr. McChristian?
Yeah.
Dr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Roberts?
Yeah.
Ms. Rouse?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver? Dr. Streeter?
Yes.
Dr. Young? Dr. Young, you're muted.
Dr. Young, are you muted?
Okay,
He just voted.
all right.
All right. All right. The ordinance is approved. Item number 8, the consent agenda. We have 3 appointments to some of our boards and committees. Pete Lancaster to the Code Enforcement, which is a renewal. Josh Vernon, a renewal to the Board of Zoning and Adjustments. And David Roberts to our Planning Commission. So do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I
So
would
moved.
approve.
I have a motion and a second, I believe. Ms. Sieber, I see you're on here twice. You can't vote but once, okay?
I'm having a technology breakdown.
Just making sure you knew that. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no? And hold up just a minute, Mr. Bell, before
Yes,
you
sir.
do what you do.
All right, let me know.
I want to make a few comments about COVID again. Okay, and as most people know around here, I spent the last 50 years of my pre-mayoral life in the field of education. And when I was a teacher and a coach and a principal and a superintendent, and when we made rules and regulations, we also put in ways to enforce those. And what would happen when people violated those? This has been a predicament in this role as mayor. I am criticized quite often, even by some of you, because I don't do more. And that's okay. I want to do more. And I can issue mandates and executive orders, but then we've got to figure out how we're going to enforce them. Therein lies the issue. And we haven't figured that out yet. What are you going to do to these people who do not wear a mask or who do not do this? And if we had an answer to this, we probably would have ended this pandemic several months ago across our country. But I do want to say this. Starting next Friday, when the college students go home, the school systems right now are closed. I'm reasonably sure that the Murray Independent schools won't go back until after Thanksgiving. The Callaway County Board is discussing this at this moment. But with all these folks that have been And they tell me, and as I read, that the biggest issue we have with continuing cases, and as you might know, we've had 100 in the last 3 days test positive here in our county. 100 in the last 3 days. People attribute most of this to not wearing masks, not social distancing, not washing hands, and attending social gatherings of larger groups. So it just appears to me that with the schools closed and Murray State students going home, that if everyone would be more diligent in doing these other things, then maybe, just maybe, between now and Thanksgiving, we could put a halt, or at least put the brakes on this thing here in our beloved hometown and county. So I'm asking everyone to limit your group meetings, limit your social gatherings, have your Thanksgivings with your families in smaller groups, and let's get this thing under control. And I think we could make some progress during these next 2 weeks if we'll do those things. So that's what I'm asking people to do. So far, my asking hasn't yielded the results we wanted, but I'm going to continue to ask. And then if that doesn't work after Thanksgiving, then we'll take a look at something else, Dr. Young. Okay? Mr. Bell,
I would like to move that we adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.